I would like to turn it over to the stars of today's show, so to speak. And Sunil and Doug, thank you very much for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Great. Chris, thank you very much for the opportunity for Commvault to talk about how backup as a service just got better with Commvault and Cisco solution here. We are very excited to be here to present and talk about the overall joint solution and how cStor, Commvault, and Cisco can really help out customers solve data management challenges. Little bit background about myself. I am the director for Cloud and Service Provider Program at Commvault, and with me also I have Doug Heverty. He is the cloud systems engineer. He's one of the rock stars at the company who has been instrumental in leading the efforts around the joint solution with Cisco and Commvault for backup as a service. Now, talking about the actual topic of the presentation today, we all know that data is the lifeblood of every organization. Data is also one of the most important assets for companies. But before it is an asset, it needs to be really protected and managed. So the analyst company called Enterprise Storage Group recently did a survey of 300 plus IT professionals across the world. And the results of the survey were no surprise. Basically, they came to the conclusion that for all the IT professionals, backup and recovery and protecting the data and protecting data which is growing at a very fast pace is one of the top 3 priorities for the companies. So this is where the joint solution plays a very important role. So the joint solution is centered around backup as a service, enabling strategic partners like cStor deliver this offering to their customers. But before we talk about the actual offering, let's touch upon why customers really want backup as a service. So if you look into IT landscape and customers, typically the average rate of data growth for customers is anywhere between 40 to 60%. So customers are grappling, in terms of managing the effective way of this data growth. And second is, also customers are really trying to cut down their capital and operational expenditures. When I say capital expenditures, it is specifically around hardware cost, storage cost, and then with operational expenditure, it's specifically around personnel costs. And the resources who typically manage backup environments for customers. Customers know that data is their lifeblood, but it's one of the biggest challenges that they face in terms of retaining backup talent. Having spent early part of my career as a backup consultant, I come to the realization that typically the average tenure of a backup administrator is anywhere from 1 to 2 years. And even for large customers, typically, customers spend, maybe half a resource or maybe a 3/4 of a resource around backup. So this is where customers know that it is very critically important for them to manage, the backup environment, but at the same time, it is hard for them to, train and retain talent. So this is where they want to really out-task this backup function so that the customers can focus on revenue-generating IT functions. Also, customers want to make sure that they can measure, and charge back their internal business units on the actual usage of these backup services. So this is where strategic partners like cStor can really help our customers, leverage this backup as a service offering. So the backup as a service offering is beyond online backup. When customers typically think that, hey, backup as a service is almost similar to online backup. No, it's not actually. With backing up an environment really requires consultative approach, making sure that we clearly understand the needs of the customer and how much of the data is mission critical versus how much of data is non-mission critical. how much of data needs to be recovered within a certain period of time with the recovery point and recovery time objectives. And also, customers also want to make sure when they are leveraging a backup, service offering vendor, they want to make sure that the vendor can help them all the way from the implementation, management, and monitoring, as well as the business continuity requirements of the customer. So these are the things which get encapsulated into a backup as a service offering for customers. With Commvault, we are a true leader in cloud infrastructure. We work very closely with our public and private cloud platform vendors, including Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and VMware, all the same partners that Chris touched upon earlier. And then Commvault also has a very rich history in working with 200 plus service provider vendors, and we have also made significant investment in the cloud service provider program in really enabling service providers like cStor, maximize the power of the Commvault platform. Now, going back to the joint solution here, we spent over 6 months in planning, designing the use cases, as well as doing end-to-end validation and testing of Commvault at Cisco solution. The joint solution has 2 components. One is Commvault for data management, and then their Cisco's UCS 3000 platform, which is a high-dense, high-performance storage server with approximately 360 terabytes of raw capacity. And then for smaller customers, Cisco also has a UCS 240 server, which is primarily a high-performance server, which is leveraged for intensive storage infrastructure workloads. The use cases span around in-cloud backup as a service, remote backup as a service, with and without local data retention. My colleague Doug is going to talk about the use cases a bit more detail shortly here. The features of the joint solution includes the solution which is very storage agnostic, whether the customer is leveraging one storage vendor or 3 storage vendors. The solution encompasses all the storage features. It also helps service providers like cStor deliver the solution in a multi-tenant environment. Also provide to the customers the self-service portal capabilities, as well as support multi-hypervisor support, whether a customer is running OpenStack or VMware or Microsoft Hypervisor. All those are covered extensively by the Cisco Analytic design. Just to also expand a bit more on CVD design for backup as a service, this has got tremendous brand cachet in the marketplace because the entire solution was completely tested in Cisco's labs for a period of 3 months. And today we are fortunate to have our colleague Doug, who has actually spent those 3 months in testing that solution end-to-end. And now, talking a little bit about Commvault, the way Commvault works is we have a single pane of glass to protect customers' most important asset, which is the data. The data could be residing on edge devices, or it could be residing in messaging applications like Microsoft Exchange or apps, or files, or databases, or operating systems. What Commvault does is it provides a single platform to really analyze, help customers analyze, backup and recover, replicate, archive, and search, all with a single solution. If you look into the history of Commvault as a company, we've been in the industry for over 2 decades. In the last 2 decades, we started with a backup company, but with a strong foundation with backup, we have extended into other market adjacencies around e-discovery, archiving, and compliance. And we have done all of those with 0 acquisitions. What it meant was if we have a single code base, which helps us offer all these great offerings to our service providers and customers. And all of these features offered by Commvault can be powered with UCS by our service providers like cStor. And now, taking up a little bit about the Cisco UCS platform itself. I mean, Cisco UCS is a market-leading platform. this business from which Cisco launched only 7 years ago went from $0 to $3.5 billion in 7 short years. So they have a very powerful, integrated platform which integrates network, storage, servers, and security all bundled into one single solution. And this is where the power of data management platform from Commvault with Cisco's infrastructure, we have a very compelling solution for customers and service providers alike. With that, I would like to transition to Doug. Doug, please go ahead, and if you can bring us up to speed on the 3 use cases, that would be great.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for the time. Going to cover the use case 1. This is what we would call our in-cloud backup. This is where the service provider like a cStor is going to protect the data that you're currently storing within their data center walls. This is where you're going to have a centralized backup solution, the Commvault on Cisco, created in one primary data center, and generally you're going to have it replicated to another data center. That way your data in data center A would be protected and replicated to data center B. Now this solution can provide not only the backup but the archiving as well as the indexing of all the data that you can protect. And as Sunil has pointed out, we've got agents available for virtually all operating system platforms as well as most of the popular databases and applications that are in the market today. We can go to the next use case, which is going to be our remote type solution, where we're going to provide that backup as a service for your servers and data that's residing within your own data center, right? So you will have a centralized Commvault environment in the service provider or cStor data center, and then they can actually provide an appliance out at your own personal data center to provide a local copy of that data. So all of the same types of applications and operating systems I can provide protection to, I'll be able to back up to a local repository and then dedupe that data and replicate it across back into the cStor data center for remote protection as well as disaster recovery. And then finally, our third use case is really very similar. It's just without the local appliance. So, if I have a small site that may only have a few servers and just a small amount of data, we can do that by just installing an agent in the servers that are residing at that local data center. And then with our source side deduplication in place, we can actually back up all the data across the wire into the service provider, cStor's data center, providing that remote retention and vaulting for disaster recovery as well as just getting it off site. And I think that I can pass that back to you, Sunil. Thank you.
Doug, thank you so much for providing a really good view to the customers here around the 3 use cases. It's very compelling use cases that we built together as a team with Cisco here. Now, I also wanted to cover a little bit about a sample customer case study of a large wholesale bank. This bank is based out of Rocky Mountain States. This customer had several key challenges before they adapted a backup as a service offering. A couple of them. One was they really lacked proper resources, and the resources were not trained. They had around 2 individuals who were struggling to manage and backup and disaster recovery for their environment. The customer had over 100 terabytes of data that they were trying to protect. Approximately 20 terabytes was with mission critical data around Oracle and SAP. The environment was not scalable. They didn't have any defined processes in managing the backup environment. And the customer also, because being in the financial industry, had significant financial compliance risk because they had poor data management practices. So this is where the customer was helped by the service provider, in this case cStor, in really enacting the second use case, which is the remote backup as a service with local data retention. The service offering was implemented over the course of 3+ months. The outcome for the customer has been really stellar. Customers really don't care for products. What they really care for is outcome and how it's going to help them with their core business. So this is a customer who was experiencing 80% backup success rate, and they had significant compliance risk. Once the solution was rolled out, the customer's backup success rate was increased from 80% to 98%. The customer had around 2 individuals running the backup environment, as I mentioned earlier. Now, with the service provider managing the environment, the total number of resources who are managing this environment decreased from 2 now to a quarter of the resource. So these 2 individuals, the 1.75 resource individuals, are now being focused on core, business, core IT functions. So the customer has definitely realized significant cost savings around personnel costs. And in the past, the customer had recovery time objectives of around 2 hours, and when they did DR testing, the recovery time that they were getting was specifically around 8 hours. Now, with the Cisco Commvault solution, delivered by cStor, the customer is actually able to deliver a recovery time of 1 hour. So all those are very compelling with a joint solution, which has been proven, tested, and really battlefield ready, which offer a very compelling value proposition and outcomes to our customers. In summary, what are the benefits of the solution that was delivered by cStor, which has been tested by Commvault and Cisco ECS? One is better economics. It really helps the customer go with the confidence, because the solution was completely tested for all the 3 use cases, which encompass all needs of the customer, whether a customer wants to build a private cloud environment or a public cloud or a hybrid cloud. It helps them really reduce their expenses, whether it is capital expense or operational expense. It helps them really accelerate the journey to the cloud, and also leverage features beyond just the traditional backup, but also archive, our e-discovery compliance and cloud operations. It also helps the customer to really scale the solution, whether the customer is running a 20 terabyte environment or a petabyte environment. Commvault and Cisco ECS solution offered by cStor can really help them deliver that solution. And the documentation around cStor's solution is available at the link mentioned here, as well as the Cisco Backup as a Service, Cisco Identity Design document is also available on Cisco portal. Please, take a moment to check all these documents to get additional information. With that, I will pass the baton to Kelly. Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much, Sunil and Doug. Great information. Extremely timely, as companies are dealing with, struggling with so much data. At this time, we will open it up for questions. As a reminder, please post any questions to the questions pane in your GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll be sure they get answered. We do have one question. It looks like this would be for Sunil and or Doug. We already have Commvault licenses. What can we do with them while we're transitioning to a BaaS solution? Any insight there, Sunil?
Yeah, Doug, please feel free to chime in here. If a customer is already running Commvault solution, that is great, because the customer has already had experience with Commvault. It is only going to ramp up the time it takes for cStor to enable this customer. That's one. And second is, service providers like cStor can definitely provide managed services so that we can really help the customer maximize the investments that they made in Commvault, and so that we can really help them and assist them and in expanding, Commvault solution across their entire infrastructure.
Great, thank you. One other question around security that was done during the testing process. You mentioned that it was a fully validated and tested solution built over 6 months, tested over 3 months. Maybe this question is for Doug. Can you talk to any of the security testing that was done during that process?
As far as the security testing, we did have users set up within the environment and allow them to, so we would log in as the user to be able to go in and access the data that they have. So the security was around the multi-tenancy, so we did set it up with multiple customers. And then we would set up the user role-based access controls so that each individual customer could have users logging in, and only the user could see only the data that they have permissions to. So from that basis of security was all set up from a multi-tenant standpoint, as well as you know, from an encryption standpoint as well too. We had all of the data encrypted in place as well as during transfer also.
Excellent, thank you. That does conclude the Q&A portion of today's session. So thank you everyone for your time and great insight again. Before we let you go, I would like to